Okay, welcome all. Let's continue with the next lecture of Pl-Sql. So in Pl-Sql, we have learned a lot of things till now. Today we'll discuss about cursors. What is a cursor? Now, one important thing you have to remember that whenever we write a SQL statement in Pl-Sql block to store the data, what SQL statement is affecting, we have to have a cursor. It's very simple. And what the cursor is? We can say that to process an SQL statement, Oracle need to create an area of memory known as the context area. This will have the information needed to process the statement. This information includes the number of rows processed by the statement, and it pointer to a past representation of statement. In a query, the active set refer to the rows that will be returned by that particular statement. Simple here. So now one thing in a simple words, you can understand that cursor is nothing but a handle or a pointer area to the context area. What is the context area? Whenever we write a SQL statement in a Pl-Sql block, it has to handle that through the cursor. So through a cursor, a Pl-Sql program can control the context area, and what happened to it, the next statement is processed. Two important features of the cursors are that cursor allow you to fetch and process the rows returned by a SQL statement, but one row at a time. Very simple? No. I'm sure many of you have not understood what the cursor is. Let's say I am writing a query, select star from table name, and whatever I'm retrieving from that table, that has to be managed somewhere. When I'm writing a SQL statement, that is handled by the system global area, but here we are handling in a programmable global area. So that all information is stored in the context area, and to handle that context area, we have to have a cursor. So in simple words, whenever you write a SQL statement, you have to have a cursor. Now the question arises that in the last few lectures, we have retrieved the data from the tables, but we did not have the cursor. So there's a one thing. There are two types of cursor, implicit and explicit. Implicit and explicit simply means what? One is automated cursor that is handled by the Oracle itself, and one is a explicit cursor which we have to define and handle it. Now, in what cases implicit cursor take place? So if you write a select statement which return only one record, then implicit cursor can handle it. If you write a insert, update, or delete statement, that also can be handled by the implicit cursor. But when we write a SQL statement select, which return more than one row, in that time, you have to have explicit cursor. Simple. So in broader way, we can say that there are two types of cursors, implicit cursor, explicit cursor. Implicit cursor is automatically managed by Oracle, and this is created by default when DML statements like insert, update, and delete are executed. They are also created when select statements are that return only one row. An explicit cursor. They must be created when you're executing a select statement which return more than one row. Simple. Now cursor can handle a multiple rows, but you can process only one row at a time. Simple. So from the cursor, you can fetch only one row at the time, and automatically cursor make the second row as a row which you have to be retrieved. Okay, now understand here. Let's say, what does the cursor does? Okay, just give me a second. Okay, just hold it. I have opened one Excel sheet. I'll share that with you. Now here, let's say I have returned one select statement. Select name from, let's say the table name XYZ. Its X is not came here, so I'll make it here XYZ. Let's say we write this query. Now this query return the, let's say ABC, and we have multiple things. Let's say the 10 records. Okay, it has returned the 10 records. So now these 10 records will be stored in the cursor. This will be stored in the cursor. But now it is handling the 10 records. But you can retrieve only one record at a time. Now I have a variable, let's say, in that variable, you can retrieve only one record at a time. Once you make this here, this will make this as a top. Now this will be the top. So this thing is managed by the cursor. Okay, we'll understand practically here. Let's go back to that screen first. Now, first we'll talk about the implicit cursor, because we have to just understand it, because we do not do anything about the implicit cursor. So any given Pl-Sql block issue an implicit cursor whenever an SQL statement is executed. And even if it is returning a one row and you have an explicit cursor for it, it will not create a implicit cursor. Very simple. A cursor is automatically associated with every DML statement. For example, update, delete, and insert. So simple. Now, cursor has some attribute which can help us to retrieve some status of the cursors. So we have a found, not found, row count, and is open. Found return Boolean output, either true or false. How to use? Cursor name %found. Not found will be the true or false. Found will be true if we are able to fetch the record successfully from the cursor, it will be the true. Else it will be the false. Not found will be the true if fetch is unsuccessful, or if it retrieve the last record twice. Simple, as we know that as soon as you fetch the first, second will become the current row. After the second, third will become the current row. After the last will remain the current row. But if last is retrieved more than once, your not found will be the true. Row count return the number of record fetched from the cursor. Is open will be true if your cursor is open. Simple here. So remember these four things: found, not found, row count, is open. Now, just let me give an example of cursors, but before that we'll go to the explicit cursor. Now in explicit cursor, when you are managing the cursor, you have to follow the 4 steps. For cursor, we are following the 4 steps. Step number 1, you have to create a cursor. Sorry, you have to declare a cursor in declaration section. And while declaring a cursor, it is associated with a one select statement. After the declaration, next thing has to be done in the executable part, that is called as accessing the record in the cursor. So for accessing, you have to do 3 things. 1, open the cursor. Second, after opening, fetch the record from the cursor. You can keep on fetching 1 record at a time. Once you fetch all the record, close the cursor and done. So it looks very difficult to understand, but while using, they are very simple to use. Now, syntax wise, how to do that? First, you have to declare the cursor. Cursor name is, and you have to write a SQL statement. Then accessing, you have to do open the cursor. So syntax is open cursor name. Then you have to say fetch cursor name into a variable name. Then you can try to display that. Okay, we'll try to do it practically now. Let's say we'll go here. Okay, give me a second. Okay, now here, let's say I am writing a simple, because here we are not looking at a logic, we are looking at the how to write a block. So I'll start with declare. So what you have to do, you have to declare the cursor first. So for declaring the cursor, syntax is very simple. Cursor, you can give a name, cursor name to the cursor. So I give a name as C1. C1 is the name of the cursor. So cursor name is select name from Bollywood. Now here you will see that this query does not have any where condition. That means all the records will be retrieved. If I'm having a 10, 12, 13, all will keep on retrieving. Simple here. So now this is done. So now this will come into the cursor. You cannot directly use a record from the cursor. From the cursor, you have to take into a variable. So we'll declare one more variable here. We'll say that the name is Bollywood dot name percent type. I hope you remember that. What is the name percent type? We are referring the data type to that because we are retrieving from the Bollywood the column name. So I'm using it here. Name percent type. We name Bollywood dot name percent type. Then we'll say the beginning. Correct here. Now, this is the step 1 is completed. What's the second step? Open the cursor. So we'll say open C1. We have done it here as a open C1. Simple. So after opening the C1, we will have to do the second step as fetch the record. So we'll say fetch C1 into V. So what has happened? Whatever the first record in the C1 has come into the V. Then I'll say here close C1. Then we'll use the end. Okay, so here we'll check what record has come. So we'll use a dbms underscore output dot put underscore line in bracket vname. So what has come into the vname, we will check. So I'll just use this. So let's come back here. I'll paste it. And we are executing this and we got an error. Okay, again, we have done the same mistake, spelling mistake here. It's a Bollywood. Correct? Okay, we'll take it here again. Now let's execute. Again, we got an error. Okay, we are doing a lot of spelling mistake because of the keyboard here. Fetch C1 into vname, 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 vname. So we'll come back here. We got a name Sanju. So is there only one record? No. But while fetching the record, you always fetch only the one record. That's why it is a Sanju. Clear? Let's go back here. Let's say these two statements I'm repeating. This is also repeating. This is also repeating. So you will say V 2 times. Now what will be the result according to you? Okay, let's clear the screen. What do you think? What will be the result here? 2 times Sanju? No, it's Sanju and Ranveer. First fetch has retrieved the Sanju, then Ranveer become the current. So second fetch has retrieved the Ranveer. What if I want to retrieve all the records? Now here you have to use a logic. You know the syntaxes, now you have to use a logic. So I'll just let me give you the one example and then you can think about the logics and keep on practicing on that. Let's go back here. Now I want to retrieve all the records which has this query has returned. So I have to keep on writing, keep on writing, keep on writing. If it is 100, you have to do this for 100 times. So whenever something is get repeated, what we do? Whenever anything gets repeated, what do? We use a loop. Here we'll see the end loop. Correct? Loop and end loop. So simple here. Now, but this has become the infinite loop. So we can take a help of attribute of the cursor. We can say exit when C1% not found. C1% not found. Not found will be true if last record is fetched 2 times. Correct? So now here we will try to execute this. You can see that we have all records retrieved here. Simple. I'm sure that concept of cursor is clear to everyone. Very simple it is. Concept of cursor is very simple. Simply cursor is required to handle the data which is retrieved by select statement. Cursor can handle n number of records, but you can process only one record at a time. So we got all these records. Now we have handled. We can use according to our logic wherever it is required. Is it clear? I'm sure there's no doubt without the cursor about the cursor here. So now if you check it again, what we have done. So let me explain you this once. So I hope it will get clear to everyone what does the cursor does. Now for the cursor, we have to follow the 5 steps. We have to follow the 5 steps. And 4 steps. Step number 1, declare the cursor. So this statement is nothing but we have declared the cursor. Cursor name is, and we can write a select statement. Cursor C1 is select name from Bollywood. You can use a star as well, but this variable must be capable to handle that records. I use only the name because it is easy for that. If I'm using a name, age, you will require the multiple variables. Clear? So here cursor is declared. Then what are we retrieving? For that we have declared a variable. And after declaring the variable, we went to the executable part. And in executable part, we do the 3 things. First, open the cursor. So when you are opening the cursor, that time this query get executed and record stores in C1. Correct? Now C1 have all these records, but these records cannot be directly used from cursor. So we fetch that record into a variable. So we said fetch C1 into vname. So it has taken first record into the vname. So which record has come in the vname? Sanju. Correct? Then we have started a loop construct. In the loop, whatever is available in the vname we have displayed. So it is going to display the Sanju. Currently it was in the vname, but here we have displayed the vname. So it is going to display the Sanju. Then we have again fetch C1 into vname. Now, once Sanju is fetched, Ranveer will become the current row in the cursor because cursor is managing that automatically. So second fetch will retrieve Ranveer. So now in the vname, what we have? Ranveer. And here we have written a condition, exit when C1 not found. But not found is not true because Ranveer has been fetched. So it will not exit. It will go here. And it will display the name of Ranveer. Then fetch. So it will go up till the Amitabh. And it will keep on displaying after the Amitabh. Again, once it Amitabh is displayed, again we are fetching. Now Amitabh के बाद कोई record यहाँ पे नहीं है. So Amitabh will be fetched again. So when the last record is fetched again, this not found will become the true. And as soon as this has become the true, it will exit the loop. And it will come here. It will close the cursor. So we have displayed all the records and end. This is how you can use the cursor in your Pl-Sql blocks. So simple here. I'm sure now it is totally clear to everyone. Okay, so I'm sure all the steps are clear to everyone. Declaration, we have seen the practical purpose. Open, fetch, and close. You can take a help of loops for multiple fetching. For individual fetching, you don't require the listing. Now, cursor with parameter. Now, what do you mean by the cursor with parameter? Now, cursor with parameter and cursor is actually the same. Only difference is you can use a parameter to access the value at runtime. Now, you have seen that entire query has been written in the declaration part. And we cannot return to the declaration part again. So for that purpose, we declare a cursor with particular parameter. Now, for an example, I want to retrieve a record for a specific age group. So in our case, what we will do, we will write select star from Bollywood where age greater than 35. Now 35 is a static value. But let's say this 35 I'll come to know in my business logic. So instead of using 35, I'll declare one parameter, that is age in and data type of that. So while opening the cursor, you can pass that value. So that value will go here, and here we have used this value. So it will become select name from employee where department ID is equal to 10. So this value we provide at the time of opening the cursor. Okay, so the cursor is the most important part of writing a block. So that's why we have explained this in little bit detailed format. Simple, that's called a cursor with parameter. Simple, some people call it as a parameterized cursor. But actual word is a cursor with parameter. So simple here. So simply, this is considered as cursor and cursor with parameter. So simple. So simply, let's have a recap about the cursor, because cursor is the most important part of writing a Pl-Sql block. So number one, cursor is required whenever a SQL statement is become a part of Pl-Sql block. Second, there are two types of cursors, implicit, explicit. Third, whenever you write a DML statement or a select statement which return a single record, implicit cursor automatically applied. But whenever you write a select statement which return more than one record, then you have to have explicit cursor. Simple. Cursor has certain attributes. Especially you can say 4 attributes. First, found. Second, not found. Third, row count. Fourth is open. You can use that attributes for the finding the status of cursor. Then in cursor, you can write a cursor in a 2 ways, simple cursor and cursor with parameter. So with this, we have finished the cursor part and we'll discuss further in the next lecture. So now almost you know that how to write a Pl-Sql block. So now we'll jump to what actually we write with a Pl-Sql. Okay, so for the time being, we'll stop it here and we'll meet in the next lecture.